of the thing. And the reality is that this time of the year, we run out of room. Room because of things that we give and things that we've received. Now, today, we didn't hear the Christmas story as it's normally told. Are you missing that? We heard from John talking about the light, the true light. But as we think about the Christmas story, you know, I've been here for 21 years. So how many Christmas messages is that? Very good, 21. And so if you're talking about the same Christmas story every single year, sometimes it's a challenge to come up with something new and fresh. I was talking to my uncle the other day and you know, telling him that, you know, I'm having a little trouble this year coming up with a Christmas message. Usually it just, you know, pops into my head and I run with it. But I was having a little trouble. So, son, this is what you do. Go back in your files, go back a good 5 years or so, and preach that one. I said, that would be all fine and good, but I don't write down my sermons. I don't have a file of sermons. Okay, I do have notes this year because Christmas messages are sometimes a little bit tough. But you know, as I reflected, as I prayed about Christmas and what I was going to say, God spoke to me. And God spoke to me through a song. And that's a lot of times, you know, it's either a Bible verse or a song that God speaks to me. And so he gave me a song this year by a group called Casting Crowns. Yeah, we know, people know Casting Crowns. And the name of the song is Make Room. Make Room. Anybody hear that? It's a great song. It's a great song. Google it when you get home. But, you know, as I was listening to the song, you know, the chorus is very haunting. Over and over and over again. Is there room in your heart? Is there room in your heart? Is there room in your heart for God to write his story? You know, when we listen to John today, God says, in the beginning there was light. But what's it say about the light? That it was not recognized. And so, you know, as I began to think about the Christmas story, I began to think about those words, is there room in your heart? I went to Luke. You know, we're all familiar with Luke chapter 2, where Luke talks about, you know, in the time of Caesar Augustus, during the reign of Quirinius, there was a census. And as we listen to the Christmas story, one of the haunting phrases in the story, because there was no room for them in the inn. In the midst of the Christmas story, Mary and Joseph are struggling, trying to find room. And I believe that Christmas, when we celebrate the birth of Jesus, it's all about making room, but making the right kind of room. And so if I asked you, what is the right kind of room, what would you tell me? This is where you answer the question. What's the right kind of room if we're talking about Christmas? The right kind of room. I think it's a pretty simple question.
Any room.
Huh?
Any room.
Make any room?
Open-mindedness.
Open-mindedness. Anybody else? Well, let's look a little bit closer at the Christmas story for a minute. And so what do we know about the Christmas story? It says that, Mary and Joseph needed to make a pilgrimage, okay, from Nazareth to Bethlehem. But what happens right before chapter 2 opens up? Anybody got any good ideas? You do? Maggie's got a good idea. Right before the birth story, chapter 1 ends with these words. And the child, that's John the Baptist, grew and became strong in spirit, and he lived in the desert until he appeared publicly to Israel. So as I think about making the right kind of room, John, at the beginning of the Christmas story, as chapter 1 leads into 2, made the right kind of room. There's a book called The Age of Missing Information by Bill McKibben.